Hello everyone and welcome to another installment of ShellBlack Whiteboard. I am ShellBlack, president and founder of ShellBlack.com and Salesforce MVP, and today we are going into the topic of lead assignment rules. So first let me tell you what a lead assignment rule is. The thought is when you're importing a lot of records into the database, into leads for example, maybe marketing did a trade show and you're coming out of that trade show with 300 or 400 leads, you want a method to be able to pour data into the Salesforce model and have it assign those records based on information on the leads to make sure the right lead gets to the right person. So for example, a government lead goes to your government guy, folks that handle a certain territory, maybe you have a territory rep that works Arizona, you want to make sure that leads that are in the state of Arizona go to this person, and so on. So it's basically a way to use logic or set of rules or criteria to have Salesforce try to figure out who should get what record and then assign that record to that person. And assignment rules can not only change the record ownership, but you can also notify that user as part of the assignment rule that they just got a new record assigned to them. So that's the purpose of assignment rules. Let's get into a little bit of the mechanics of how they work. This is not going to be a click-by-click exercise. This is more just covering the topic in general and how they work. There's a lot of confusion on how to set these up right, and there are some best practices to know about. So first thing you need to know is you have to give your rule a name. I personally like to give the assignment rule a date in the name because that tells me a couple things. It tells me when we put it in place and then how long we've been running it. So this is a 2003 assignment rule. Maybe next year you have a territory change and you have a new assignment rule that's active. You can kind of see how long that's been in place and when running. A little tip there for you. So the way assignment rules work is based on an order of criteria. So a lead comes into the Salesforce database, and Salesforce is going to look at these rules in the order that you put them in to determine who should own that record. So the way that I have this set up is at the very top, I have an entry that says, when the lead source is from the website and the email address contains a .gov, a government website, a government employee, and the number of employees is equal to or greater than 5,000 employees, I want to throw this into the government queue. And this is one of the rare instances in Salesforce where you can assign a record to a queue. You can do that lead in cases. So I have a government queue worked by Mark and Sebastian, and I'll let them fight it out from there. But I know that if a lead comes into the system, regardless of any other information that's on that lead record, if it hits this criteria, I want my government team to start working it. So the next two rules is to make sure that my two sales reps that manage the Dallas territory get their record before it starts hitting this other criteria for the state of Texas. So basically what I'm trying to accomplish is if I have two people that work just the city of Dallas and I have another rep that has everything but Dallas, I got to make sure that I evaluate the Dallas rule before Texas, because if I have this state equals Texas criteria first, as soon as that lead comes in and it says Texas, it's off to Kimmy, and it will never get evaluated to know if it's the city of Dallas. So if I want to make sure the folks that have this one market get first dibs, I got to have them higher in the order before it hits Texas. So in this rule I said city of Dallas, so city equals Dallas, or zip code starts with 752, which is roughly the zip code inside Dallas. And then I have another criteria here that I want to highlight, and that is round robin ID equals 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. So I have two users that service Dallas. And so I want to make sure that there's equal opportunity or equal likelihood that they're going to get an equal share of leads. So if I have 10 leads come into the system that are from the city of Dallas, I want to make sure Felipe gets 5 and Fernando gets 5. So it's even, Steven, fair chance. How you create a round-robin assignment rule, we've created a blog post for that. I'm not going to get into it here because it's a lot of clicking, a lot of setting up. There's a custom formula and some other things. But just realize, once you have that set up, it becomes criteria that you can use to make sure that there's an equal distribution of leads. We'll put that in the transcription notes on how to do a round-robin. So that's how I'm going to make sure that Dallas leads get chosen and equally distributed to these two folks. Now the next rule that I have is very simple, state equals Texas, and if that's true, it goes to Kimmy. Again, if I had that up higher, that rule would grab all the leads from Texas and we would never get into the city of Dallas. Then so on, we're going to have state equals Florida. That goes to Jensen. And we'd go through all our 50 states. The best practice is you want to have a rule at the very bottom with no criteria, no requirements, and if a lead comes into the database and it doesn't meet this requirement, doesn't meet this requirement, doesn't meet this requirement, and so on and so on and so on and so on, and it finally gets down to this catch-all that goes to the system administrator, that tells me as a system administrator that I've got a hole somewhere in here that I need to go plug. I need to make sure that there is a rule criteria, rule entry to catch this record. So if anything does make it to me, I can look at that record, look at the criteria, look what came across into the database, and try to figure out who should have gotten it. And once I make the determination, then I can update my rules. But this is kind of the catch-all, make sure everything happens. Okay, so that's how assignment rules work. A couple things I want to hit before we wrap this up. So this works great if you're maybe have web to lead, but there's other methods if you are importing lead records into the database. You might be using the lead import wizard. And if you want to make sure that when you're doing an import through the lead import wizard, which is in the data management tools, you can do up to 50,000 records at a time, there is a field where you select the pick list of the name of your active rule, and basically you tell Salesforce during the import, use this rule to assign records out during the import that you're running through the wizard. Let's say that you're using the data loader. The data loader uses the API. If you go into settings into the data loader, there is a field for a lead assignment rules, and you're not going to put the name of the lead assignment rule like you did in the wizard. You're actually going to put the record ID of this assignment rule, I'm not going to get too technical here, into the data loader, and that tells the data loader when importing records that you want to basically pour all those records into this set of criteria and let Salesforce figure out who should own the record. So you don't have to sit there and hard code 50,000 leads with the lead owner. You basically say, just let the lead assignment rules do that for me. So the good news is, if you are the master of lead assignment rules and you kind of get how this is starting to work, don't be scared of case assignment rules. Don't be scared of lead auto response. And auto response is a lead comes in, you can evaluate and decide which email to send back to your client, for example, on web to lead. Very, very same setup. So that wraps up this ShellBlack Whiteboard segment. I want to thank you for your time. We would love your feedback. We would like to know what you like, what you don't like. What would you like to see in future episodes? You can get a hold of us a couple different ways. You can use @shell_black on Twitter, or you can email me at whiteboard@shellblack.com. Goes to me. Would love to hear from you. We'll see you soon.